Almost.
Looks like we're on. Okay.
There you go.
Let's get started. So it is 6:32 p.m. March 2nd, 2021. And let's call the Conservation Board meeting to call together here. So we have two items on the agenda tonight, and then a couple items we'd like to discuss. Let's start with Willis Hill Estates Phase 2, which is formerly the Anderson subdivision. So it looks like we have this has been before us in the past, and I know we've walked this with Jeff, and so applicant is requesting approval to create 23 lots, including one flag lot on the east side of Willis Hill Road as a cluster subdivision using Town Law 278. The phase will include approximately 32 acres of conservation easement, in addition to 49 acres created in phase 1. So this is a third step of a major subdivision. So Jeff, I think we've been through this a couple times now. Why don't you give just a quick overview of what you're looking for tonight? And I did notice that there were some items in the Dropbox, some conservation easement language,
Right.
it looked like. So
Well, this to bring us historically, we have 160 acres on Willis and Strong Hill roads, of which we have we did a phase 1 that was fully approved and filed, and that phase 1 provided 5 estate-size lots, one of which was the original homestead. And and with that property up to be about 40 acres actually, and then the other 4 parcels are in the 8 to 10 acre range. So totally about 100 acres have been about 80 acres have been subdivided off of the property as part of phase 1. As part of phase 1, we did come before the Conservation Board, and we did have 2 different conservation easement languages approved for 2 different areas within the total overall subdivision. Our next phase is what's on what currently has been designed and you're looking at now, which is on the east side of Willis Hill Road. And then our final phase 3 will be on the west side of Willis Hill Road. And that was the area that I know that all of you walked, and there's some wooded areas there that you can see. The dark green to the north side of that west side, phase 3. And then there's some wooded parcels on the east side of Willis Hill, which is the phase 2 we're discussing this evening. The 4 green, light green and dark green that you see all the way over on Strong Road, those were the 4 lots that were approved as part of phase 1. The gray areas behind them are all in a conservation area, as are the gray areas to the south of the light green phase 3. And what is not highlighted is the original homestead parcel, which kind of consumes all of the remaining acreage there on the west side of Willis Hill Road. The 2 different conservation easements were structured around one, the knowledge that those 8 to 10 acre parcels on Strong could potentially be somewhat, people might have desires for horses and things like that. So that use was allowed for agricultural in that area. And that is the only area actually where there's what we deemed as conservation A. I think it was A, I'm trying to remember which one was which. Yes, that was conservation A, which did provide some options for agricultural use. and that was limited to those 4 strong road parcels. The Conservation B was the area to the south of those phase 3 lots, which are on the west side of Willis Hill. And Conservation B language was also proposed to be utilized in phase 2, which is the large gray area that you see behind the easterly phase 2 portion of the development. So the green areas of phase 2 are the unrestricted areas. The gray area to the east of that is the Conservation B area. The Conservation B area was more restrictive, does not allow for agricultural use, and it was pretty much patterned after the conservation easement language that we got approved over on Bluemont Rise. And I don't think it's actually that different than what's on Dorchester Park either. It allows not any wholesale clearing or wholesale anything. It allows maintenance of trails, some clearing of deadfalls, some limited amount of maintenance for residential gardens or something like that. But we really don't anticipate that occurring much over in the phase 2, because most of that conservation area in phase 2 is fairly shrub and wooded area to the east. The only substantive, if you look at lot, I think it's 204, maybe it is. That's the largest lot on phase 2 that's on the northernmost section of phase 2. There is that's some open land to the what would be to the east of that one lot. It's the remains of a farm field there. So that might be appropriate for residential garden. On the other hand, there's much of that property around the house is available anyway, in which case I don't know if that would be the case. But anyway, so we do have, we have a couple of existing recorded conservation easements in the first phase. We were proposing to use the same conservation easement language B in the second phase, but since it hasn't been fully recorded yet, we could certainly discuss if there were any need to change the language. I don't have any problem with that. The intent was to, maintain and conserve the property, not allowing clear harvesting of woodlands or anything else. So I think that's what we're here to discuss tonight, whether that conservation area B language is still appropriate for phase 2, or whether you'd want to look at some other language.
Yeah, well, thank you for the overview. I guess board members, did you guys get a chance to look through the packet and read through some of the language?
Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you that were around for Bluemont and that walk, I believe the conservation B language is very similar to that, if not identical. But
Okay. Any issues with that, Pat? I don't know. I know.
The only thing that I was thinking about was, point number 15 or number 15, I guess, with respect to mowing. Sounds like, I'd bring this up because of Dorchester, Andrew, and I guess it just depends on what landscape we want to maintain in that easement. So I guess maybe if we want to have some discussion around that, do we want mowing? Do we not?
yeah, and I think that was, there were a couple of different languages that we inherited in Dorchester, but then I know that there was actually a new easement that was proposed by Kim, and I think it's in the process of being recorded and kind of replacing the 2 different easements that existed on Dorchester. And I think the motivation was to try to maybe have more similarity among all the easement, that are in the town. I think it's a valid point. I don't, if you look at phase 2 specifically, I doubt whether it'll be very relevant, quite honestly, because of the nature of the land around there. It's very hilly, wooded, not the kind of thing that you're going to see. Now, on the other hand, in Dorchester, there are some fairly large flat areas that are outside of wetland areas that could potentially be mowed. But again, that wasn't our language to begin with. We inherited, I think it was a 2012 easement, and then I think Kim wanted to clean it up and have less. There were physically 2 different conservation easements for those 17 lots. So we participated in that. It's certainly a valid discussion. I don't have any problem with that. I think I'm sorry to continue to remember things, but I think in Dorchester, one of the reasons why they allowed the mowing, it was because there were so many other things going on there that there was the stream corridor and some other easements. So I think they decided that if few of these lots weren't allowed to mow in the easement, then they really wouldn't have much. That, at least in Dorchester, was the explanation for it. And then, if I recall our walk in Bluemont, the reason was that there were some substantive play areas that could be maintained and mowed that were currently not shrubbed or treed, and to some extent might make some sense. And even I know in the conservation easement that we have in Harbor Glen, partly in order to maintain meadowlands, you have to do periodic mowing anyway, and in that case we were trying to maintain some meadowlands, so we allowed seasonal mowing and all that. So mowing's not a bad thing necessarily. Use of pesticides and herbicides and all that, it's a bad thing. But so yep, it certainly is a relevant paragraph.
So this is Matt. I think, yeah, I'd like to maybe see it say something like seasonal mowing, rather than no mowing of wetlands. It doesn't seem like it pertains here, so I'd rather see maybe seasonal mowing.
I don't think that's a problem, particularly in phase 2. I don't see the areas being, if they were to be maintained, it would be for the purposes of meadowlands and open areas, and prevent some of these invasive shrubs that are around us all the time, which I have a problem, I know, with gray twig, and if I don't mow it, consumes the land.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that, Matt. I think that makes sense. Seasonal mowing, that fits with the precedent and character that we've given advice to other folks. So I like that.
Okay. I think that's very reasonable.
Anything else regarding language on that?
Nothing that I noted. I'm good.
Okay. One thing I noticed in the presentation was, and it looks like it would be in phase 1. You have some proposed markers, and then you
The conservation, yes. The phase, one of the comments from the town I know on phase 2 is that the engineers so far haven't noted those on the map. So I know that will be added to phase 2. Phase 1, as I understand, that kind of the same thing. The engineer hadn't noted all of them, but then they did go back to the planning board, and there was a resolution and an approval for, I guess, less frequent markers on those large parcels. And I honestly don't recall the detail of it, but the planning board did approve that. We still are going to have conservation markers clearly on all the boundaries of the lots and all that. but maybe not in the same interval that's required in the code. But
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, in this
It
case,
looked like it was in the middle, maybe in the middle of the lot. So going across
Right.
the back of a lot
Yeah,
line,
right.
you're gonna mark the corners, but you asked for relief maybe in
Right,
the center.
And I think the reason being that they were all lineal lines and was very clear where the boundary markings were. I know in Stonington Ridge where we have it, they aren't necessarily very straight because the lots are configured and pie shaped and all that. Where I think the planning board accepted the engineer's perspective that they didn't necessarily need the mid markings.
Yeah, and I think the conservation easement, it runs, it's pretty continuous across all the lots, like 101,
Right.
102.
Yep, it's very straight line, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Now, I haven't, other than seeing the comment that they weren't on the plans, I really haven't studied phase 2 to see how that relates. I think, again, in phase 2, we're trying to bulk the conservation lands, as we did in phase 1, principally with large parcels rather than having them divvied up among all the lots. Because that raises, partly by putting it as a large mass as you look at that map, rather than dividing it among 10 lots that it's behind, then it eliminates the need for the frequent conservation markers, because physically people don't own that land. I mean, their property line is the end of their property. And if you look at the phase 2 map, that conservation area B goes with lot 223, is it, or 204, or I forget the 2 there, but anyway, it's a large tract of land. So there's markings are not as critical when the property boundaries are really what separates the land from the houses. Did you get that? It's my logic anyway. Plus, it saves
Makes
us.
sense.
It saves us the expense of putting in all those markers. That's the other. I mean, one, it's more of a clear property delimitation of ownership, and two, it's I don't have to put 30 markers in.
Yeah, it's, if you can leverage that somehow on phase 2, I know it might be a little more difficult, or any of the follow-on phases for that matter. I think it beneficial, and it fits the character. If we can make it continuous and make it fit the character of the land, I think that helps. I think that helps overall too. Okay. Aside from the one comment on seasonal mowing, is there anything else, Keith or Pat, that you wanted to add? I see Pat had to drop off.
Not really. I mean, other than the agricultural, I know that Jeff, you mentioned agriculture on easement A. I think to your point, as long as the board's fine with that, I don't really see any issue. The horses and such.
Yeah,
I think that would kind of.
Well, it just seemed, since they are 10 acre parcels, give or take. And also, if you look at the land usage along Strong Road, it's not, it is kind of a normal thing. And so it just seemed like that rural character should be allowed versus trying to call it a suburban small half-acre lot. I mean, and so far, admittedly, we have 2 sales, and they aren't going to be doing that, but they understand that it is permissible.
Gotcha.
Makes sense.
Okay. All right. Keith, anything else?
No, I think we've covered a lot in the discussion, so there's nothing new to really add to it.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Jeff, I think that's all we
You're
have.
set? Okay, well, I thank you for your comments, and I've made notes, the language seasonal mowing, and also that we do have to attend to, making more clear where the markers will be placed on the phase 2 maps. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.
Okay, let me pull up the agenda. We have O'Neill next, I believe. Okay, yeah, O'Neill subdivision, and I know we've talked about this before. I know we walked it. So who do we have on for the O'Neill property?
Link with BME. Can you hear me?
Hey, Link, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah, I'm on. We talked about this before. You want me to just intro where we're at, and we can go from there?
Yeah, give us a little narrative on where you are, where the project's heading, and what you're looking for tonight.
Okay. So we were here. I think we were here last month to talk about the sketch plan for this. The sketch plan that we came in, we weren't showing any of the conservation easements on it. We went in front of the planning board and you guys for the sketch, and we got all the feedback from both boards, and what we did was go back to the individual people that are looking at each of these houses and worked on conservation easement areas and submitted for preliminary final subdivision, which is the application that is now at the town. The application is consistent with what we showed at the sketch plan. It's 76.4 acres total. We're looking to subdivide it into a 7-lot subdivision. There will be, the existing home will remain on lot, sorry, let me just pull this up too. Lot 7, the existing home will remain. The rest of the lots we showed, lots 1 through, we showed the conservation easements on and coordinated with the people that are looking to purchase these individual lots. And as we discussed at the last board meeting, each one of those lots will go through its own site plan review and approval process. What we're looking to do for this preliminary and final subdivision is to create the lots for a land transfer, basically. And then they will transfer these lots, and then each lot will go through subdivision and site plan review. The big lot, which is all the way to the south there, that is going to remain as ag. And so the individual that has that under contract would like to just leave that as ag for now, and we just put a note on there saying that 50% of it will need to be placed into a conservation easement with any future work on that, any future application on that land. So I think, and I know we've gotten some comments from staff on the project so far, and that was one of the comments they had about that conservation easement. But I think what we're looking to do tonight is just for you to take a look at the conservation easements as we're proposing. It looks like you might want to schedule a site walk to review, and then we're looking to go in front of the planning board and then move forward with a subdivision application. So we want to go over the conservation easements. Basically, we're showing 50% conservation easement on each one of these lots. We've tried to put them around the areas that we feel are important from a conservation standpoint, as well as coordinated with the individual owners on how we believe they're going to lay out their homes and septics and wells and things, and driveway locations. So that's sort of why they look a little funky, but we did have to coordinate with a few of these people that have some of these lots under contract. So with that, that's sort of what we did for our homework assignment, and we wanted to come back and get your feedback on what we've done, and then, you know, see what we might need to do moving forward. We also don't show the markers on here, which I know was a comment that we got from staff. But I also may want to have a conversation with you or the planning board about maybe the strength of these conservation easements or the type of restrictions you want to put in as they're doing the site plan versus me drawing lines based on a subdivision in the field, just showing that we're showing the 50% easement, that it's a requirement, but how you might want to decipher it you might want to consider that during the site plan review for each of these lots, because they'll have to come for a review by the town. So that's just sort of a background to where we're at, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah, certainly want to consider that during site plan. And I think, this is my opinion, I think we should get out there and walk, you know, take a look at this again. I think it makes sense, you know, to look at this and see, now that we have an idea where the proposed easements are going to lay. I could tell you there's, you know, what we'll be looking at is, you know, things, you know, what kind of natural resources are out there? What are we, you know, what are we protecting with the easement? Is there any kind of modifications we can, you know, at least physical modifications to the boundaries that we could recommend? And yeah, certainly the language too. That's a big one. As you heard previously, you know, there's some different varieties of easement language we can, you know, we can pick from and kind of tailor to a certain degree. So yeah, we can certainly help you there, especially knowing these are, you know, I guess, you know, going to be individual homes or not. It's not part of a larger development. So, I guess I'll open it up to the board. Do you agree? You think we should get out there and walk this again and take a look where the easement lines are proposed to be?
Yeah, I think just to put closure to it, to the licensing facilities, you should
Okay.
do that.
I agree.
Okay. So we'll take that action and get that set up, Link. We'll work through Kim on that one to figure out a good time in the next week or so. What, just for reference, when's your next meeting date with the planning board?
I believe it's the 23rd. Does that sound right? 23rd. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll shoot to get out there before. Probably be a weekend.
And I also, with the application, I also submitted an existing features plan, which I don't know if you saw that one too, but it has the tree lines, the wetlands, and delineates the topo and the easements. So there's two plans that came in. So that one at least will give you some idea of the features and things at the site. Did you see that one?
I'm just looking through the packet here. Yeah, I have it.
That might be a better one to look at for the board before you go out there, because it gives you idea of the wood lines and things.
Yeah.
As well.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the items we'll look at. You know, existing features, wood lines, elevations. You know, things, features like that.
And, you know, we did, like I said, we did coordinate with, you know, all these individual people that are looking to build and how they're building, how they are looking to build and where they need to provide access and where they want to put their yard and where, you know, so we did put a lot of thought into sort of how they're laid out with the individual people as well. So just so you know.
Yeah, no, that's really important is working with your potential clients before, trying to educate them and, you know, make them aware of what a conservation easement is. It's not, you know, we certainly don't want that to be a restriction against folks. We try to have it as a, you know, a feature that helps protect and buffer and, you know, tries to encourage, some of the positive traits of Victor here. So I like that you're trying to promote that with your potential clientele. Big question I have is lot 4. So I know you mentioned that that's going to stay in ag, or at least it intends to stay in ag right now.
Yes, correct. He's buying that, the neighbor's buying that entire parcel, and his plans are to remain using it as ag. So there's no proposal house or anything on there now.
Okay. I believe, yeah. I'm just going back to my notes, and I think it's even noted on here. It is for future development. I believe it is subject to that. So if there are future subdivisions out of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just right now I just put a note on there that says that the conservation easement that's required is 15.0 acres. No, and then I just put lot 4 is to remain as ag use. A minimum of 50% of the property will be placed in a conservation easement with any future application to the town of Victor.
Yeah.
So we put that note per the request of that individual that's looking to buy that on that. Because I don't know if I would have to go back and ask if, if we showed a conservation easement, we're not really, it's not really serving a purpose if he's going to keep farming it. And then if someday something was going to come in there, then the easement probably wouldn't be in the right place, or whatever. So.
Nope. That's a practical approach. Agreed. Open up to the board. Anything? Any comments? Any questions?
Just gonna say, so far I like where the easements are. We'll get out there and walk it. But so far, I think it'll be a nice buffer from one property to the next. And that's all I had so far.
Yeah. Tim, Keith, anything?
No.
Nothing. Looking forward to the site walk. Nothing much to add at this point.
Yeah. I think the one of the other actions we should take, we'll provide you some sample language, some sample easements, so you can go through those and take a look and see what makes sense. And we'll certainly, if you have questions, maybe at the site walk we can walk through some of those, as you heard with Jeff and several of his developments. There is room, and I encourage, especially if you have some clientele, to engage them maybe and see what they, for instance, the horse or equestrian, that's a good one. The mowing or seasonal mowing rather. So I think we'll send those along to you, and if you can, maybe have a discussion with your with your potential clients to see what they want to do with this land, and see if we can work with them a little bit.
Okay, sure. Have Kim, I think I probably or have Kim send them along, and we can distribute them as well, so they can start thinking about them.
Great. Yeah, and along with that also is the markers. You probably heard us talking a little bit about that. That's I don't know how familiar with that code, but certainly where there's an intersection, that must, and if there's any change in direction, or if there's a particular distance, and I can't recall off the top of my head, that the line must be marked on or marked. And those markers, they can be the little signs that are posted, or we've had natural landmarks, boulders, large trees, if you use that. So there's a little bit of option anyway there too.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have anything else. I think you covered everything, and we'll be back in touch with you on some dates for a site walk in the next week or so.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, you're welcome to stick around, but we're going to move on. There's a couple other items we have. So.
No, all set. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night. Okay. So. Put my agenda here. Okay, so that's those are the two formal items on the agenda. Now we have Engbrecht. We have I believe Jeff, are you on? So we have. I know you had some. Sounds like you had some discussions, and you have a proposed, and I'm trying to pull it up right now as I'm speaking. Conservation easement and some language. You want to walk us through that a little bit?
Well, it pretty much follows what talked about before, in the fact that the area that is currently horse pasture will be able to be mowed seasonally once in a while. And that the area that's the steep slopes and the trees are pretty much going to stay that way. The only area that's not in those two sections is the pond, which is out in front. So that runs there. And so that was included in the land that was taken off. So pretty much the same that we talked about before.
You kind of broke up. So the pond, where's the pond? Pond is included or not included?
The pond is included in the land, in the 9 acres that is cut out, 50% of it. So it is included. The pond is between my home and Kyle's new lot there that we're still currently trying to get done.
Gotcha. Board members, did you get a chance to read through this or take a look at this?
Sorry, I'm just reading through it now.
Yeah.
Al?
Yes.
Did you want to, I mean, you took the stuff that they sent you, the form per se, and just kind of applied it to the conversations that we had. So is there anything really that you wanted to say about any of that?
No, not really. I mean, everything is, you know, I think we've done what we've intended to do. The board and you was with restrictions on the steep slopes and what can be done there versus the flatter areas outside the toe. And we've tried to include, you know, something unique like we're going to dig another pond north of your son's house to do some filling. But other than that, you know, still have horses and still have use of the space and that sort of thing. And you're not going to have much use of the steep slope, that's for sure, but at least you'll own it. And, you know, if you get into a blowdown situation like we almost had here last couple of days, geez, it was crazy. We've seen a lot of trees down, and there may be times where you might want to go in and do a little forest management on that slope and try to see if you can't save some of the other trees from a catastrophic event.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's nothing. It's just open space, and I tried to capture everything that we've talked about, and I think we've done that.
Yeah, I just scrolled through it and saw some high points. I think it's practical. I agree, you know, with you know, removing some of the deadfalls if they pose a threat. You know, I think you know, looks like you got the clearing of brush for any kind of
Yeah, if they want to make a trail, there's already there's a roadway going up through that area. If they want to make a trail and clear a little bit of it, you know, to walk and whatever. I mean, nothing to a large extent, that's for sure.
Yeah. I have no problems with this. I think it's okay. And I think where you have things drawn out is okay too. They look good too. Yeah, I don't have any other further comment on this.
Well, we didn't want motorcycles running around, but you know, if he's running around with a farm tractor and mowing or or that sort of thing, that's a different situation. But
yeah.
No cars, trucks, or motorcycles.
Very straightforward. Okay. All right.
It goes 9 miles an hour down a hill with a tailwind. So.
We've got planning board approval, subject to the board. So we're just trying to button it up now and get everything squared away.
Okay. Good. Well, yeah, I don't have any further comment. I guess board, if you guys have anything, let me know. Speak up. But I think this is all set.
No, I think we're set.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you for presenting this
Thank
and
you.
being patient with us. And
Oh,
I think overall it worked out for everyone. So I wish you the best of luck with everything.
great. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's always enjoyable.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay. Let me pull up my agenda. Yeah, I gotta restart my Dropbox. Okay. I think the rest of the things we want to take offline here, or there's 2 items we want to take offline. So, okay, newsletter. Looks like March 19th, although I think it was March 15th was the deadline. Any thoughts on that? Anyone aching to write an article for the Victor Voice?
Was
Tim,
this a
since you
new
were-
article, or was this we were going to reuse one of the old ones?
I think we recycled the last one for.
Okay, so now it's Pat's turn. Right.
Yeah,
I was
you
just thinking-
used the one spring one for the winter the last time.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought it was the precedent that the newest board member was to write the next one, which would be Tim, but maybe not. But no, actually, if that's the case, I think Keith, you and I are up. Is that right? I think we're going to do something on water.
Just now, you're changing. You just said the newest member should do it. How you jump on?
I think you and I were next in the cycle, but I would since you and I both have votes, we could sway Andrew and Tim could be the one to do it. So.
I like where you're going with this.
Um,
Yeah, I think we're scheduled for the fall of this year, I think, isn't it?
yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah.
Should we try to get something together? What do you think?
When is it supposed to be? Isn't it the fall of this year?
Looks like it's March 19th. Is that right,
Yep.
Andrew?
The next issue's the spring summer one. It'll be out around the middle of April. So the due date's March 15th.
Oh.
Don't all
So-
jump at once.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we, to be honest, I saw it as a bullet point, but I didn't think about it much more than that. Maybe we think about it for a day, see if there's some topics that might make sense to cover for springtime. And, you know, we can trade emails. I don't mind, you know, assisting or helping.
Same.
So-
We can put something together, I think. So yeah, if we want to have a follow-up in between us, we can hopefully grab a topic and contribute and go
Okay.
from there.
Okay.
That sounds fair.
And if you, well, I guess Pat and Keith, you may have my other draft. I have a couple that I've written. I think 2 or 3, maybe. I can forward them over to you. They're not long. You know, they're not intended to be essays by any means. So
Honestly, if this is the spring one, it might not even be a bad idea just for a reminder about easements. You
Yeah.
know, mowing and stuff. That would be a pretty easy one to put together.
yeah, I
Just a
think
thought, but
that was one of the topics we wanted to cover. I think we laid out some topics last year, and then
mhm.
with COVID hitting, it just everything, you know, kind of fell apart. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I think that's a good one. If you want to do that, water is a good one. I think there's a few out there. So if you need like I said, if you need any templates or, you know, examples, let me know. I have a few, and then I think I have some of the older archived ones as well.
Okay.
And you go ahead and forward it now.
Yeah, I can forward those too.
Yeah.
Okay. Minutes. Who got a chance to read through the minutes?
So I didn't see them in there, but it's possible that I just overlooked them.
I didn't see them in there either.
Nope, I don't think we have them. So I guess we'll have to put that off till next meeting. What's that, the 16th?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ed, do you have anything?
No, honestly, it's been all very quiet. We are having a lot of discussion currently about recreational programs and what we're going to try to do for spring, summer, and how that would work with the state's guidance and what that would look like. We still won't be going inside, at least not currently, but we're looking at, they're talking about, obviously you got high school sports are starting up, summer camps are going to be able to do some things. So I think we're going to try to piggyback on some of that to enable us to have some outdoor activities for sure, you know, for the summertime. So starting to gear up for that. That's obviously a big topic lately. We're still, as a town, in what we are calling the pause, where we're only spending money on things that we have to spend it on, as opposed to anything that's potentially a want, as opposed to a need. The things we need, we will spend money on, we'll take care of. But if there's something that's more like gee, this would be a nice to have, or, you know, then we're going to hold off, not knowing how things could change. Right now, it seems to be like we're moving in the right direction, but we still want to be very conservative and cautious with that. So, we'll see how that goes.
Any new projects coming through or anything?
No, not currently. Again, because of the fact that we're not looking to, take anything big on at the moment, until we get a more, I guess a more consistent. Things are okay and they're on the upswing, and we don't have to worry about shutting things back down again.
Yeah.
Obviously, if something went the other way, it affects us greatly from a financial perspective. So we're erring on the side of caution. It's not really the time to be kind of frivolous, I guess, with certain things, and it's really the time for caution and conservatism in the finances, because if things shut down again and then the sales tax goes back down, we lose that benefit, and that's a big part of our budget is the sales tax revenue. So we got to be a little careful, obviously looking out for the pennies. But right now, nothing big on the agenda as far as projects go.
Okay. Any updates on in-person meetings? Or are we kind of holding the status quo on
For
Zoom?
right now, yeah. I will ask again. We have been starting, like the town board's been meeting in person.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we're completely spread out within the room in that big meeting room.
Yeah.
Technically, we're limiting the number of people that are allowed to attend to make sure that we keep the 6-foot distance. And at this moment, at least the last few meetings, we haven't had any issue because we haven't had that many people show up.
Sure.
So we've had a few people that had concerns, and they showed up to express their concerns to the board. But again, like we're spread all over the dais and all over in the room. Karen Bodine, who used to sit up front, now sits back. So we've spread people out. So we have at least 6 feet between us. And then for the general public and everybody else, there's chairs spread out all over the room, to create those barriers or distances. So we're just trying to be super cautious and make sure that we can have meetings in person, but we're not going crazy having a lot of people show up.
Yeah.
We're all wearing masks when we're in the buildings, and that's still, current. For anybody that's in the building, they should have a mask on. So,
sure. Okay.
Is that something you guys want to start pushing towards, this meeting in person again?
I'll give you my opinion and feel free to jump in, guys. But I think this, this virtual forum is actually beneficial. And I've seen more participation from the community, and actually gotten more feedback from folks that can go back and look at the the YouTube videos.
Right.
I actually, it is nice to have in-person meetings, but I do think it's also helpful to to leverage this technology. So I'm okay doing what we're doing now.
Anybody else?
I'm ready to not have kids in the background at our physical meetings. So, but I do see the convenience factor, Andrew. So, when we get there, I'll welcome it with open arms. But,
yeah,
it's working. So,
right, we're getting.
I tend to agree. Sorry. With some of the more complicated projects, it's, I'm sort of flipping between screens and, zooming in and can't reading. So, there's advantages to being in person besides the kids, but for the most part, it's working.
Yeah. And you guys are getting stuff done. I mean, it would be different if we said, this is really creating a hardship and we're not going to be effective. We can't, really make good sound decisions because of it. Then that's a whole different story, I think. And we would figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will bring it up at the next board meeting and ask, what the most recent guidance is. Where do we stand with those meetings? And I'll let you know.
Okay, great. Okay, anything else anyone wants to add?
Nope.
Well, you guys know the drill. Looking for a motion to.
Motion.
Did we want to discuss the salt spray one?
Yeah, we're gonna take those two items off.
Okay, I thought we were off. Okay.
Okay, so I didn't catch that.
Second Pat's motion